wasn't looking for a secret. I was looking for a water main. That's how it started, with municipal plumbing records. I'd been spending weeks in the basement archives of the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, cross-referencing sewer expansion documents from the 1890s with foundation surveys conducted during the post-war building boom. Tedious work. The kind of research that makes your eyes ache and your coffee cold. I was trying to understand why certain blocks in Lower Manhattan had drainage problems that persisted for over a century despite multiple infrastructure overhauls. The answer, I assumed, would involve clay pipe degradation or shifting bedrock. What I found instead was a tunnel. Not a sewer tunnel, not a utility conduit, not a forgotten segment of the early subway system, which I was familiar with in considerable detail. This was something else entirely. A passage roughly 14 feet in diameter, lined not with the cast iron or brick typical of 19th century underground construction, but with a material the surveyor's notes described only as vitrified composite of unknownite. The survey was dated November 1948. The surveyor's name was Harold Ellison. He noted the tunnel's existence, recorded its approximate coordinates, measured its diameter, and then, in the margin of his field report, wrote a single sentence that stopped me cold. Forwarded to Office of Special Projects. Do not resurvey. November 1948. Surveyor Harold Ellison documents a 14-foot tunnel beneath Lower Manhattan, lined with unidentified vitrified material. His field report is marked, Forwarded to Office of Special Projects. Do not resurvey. The Office of Special Projects has no surviving institutional record. I spent 3 weeks trying to locate the Office of Special Projects. It does not appear in any organizational chart of New York City government I could find. Not in the 1940s, not in any decade. It is not referenced in the Municipal Archives Administrative Index. It has no surviving correspondence, no letterhead, no personnel files. And yet Harold Ellison, whose career I was able to verify through pension records and union membership rolls, clearly believed it existed, clearly believed it had the authority to classify a piece of underground infrastructure, and clearly believed the instruction not to resurvey was binding enough to follow. That should have been the end of it. An obscure footnote, a bureaucratic ghost, the kind of minor archival curiosity you mention at a conference dinner and then forget. But I didn't forget, because 2 months later, while reviewing a completely unrelated set of documents, emergency response records from the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, dated 1991, I found a second reference, not to the tunnel itself, but to something the MTA emergency planners called the parallel system. The 1991 document was a contingency assessment, the kind of internal planning memo that agencies produce in bulk and almost never act upon. It concerned evacuation protocols for a hypothetical catastrophic event affecting the New York subway. Buried in an appendix, in a section discussing alternative routing during system-wide shutdowns, was a passage that referenced existing parallel infrastructure, capacity approximately 10,000 concurrent users, access points classified, operational status maintained by agreement with federal liaison. That was it. No elaboration, no diagram, no further mention in the body of the report, just an acknowledgement, almost parenthetical, that beneath the subway everyone knows about, there was something else, something maintained, something with a defined capacity, something classified. 1991, MTA contingency assessment references existing parallel infrastructure, capacity approximately 10,000 concurrent users, access points classified, operational status maintained by agreement with federal liaison, no diagram, no elaboration, no further mention in any subsequent public document. 10,000. That number lodged in my mind the way a splinter lodges under the skin. Not 100, not 1,000,000, 10,000. A number that implies planning, implies selection, implies that someone, at some point, determined exactly how many people this system was designed to serve, and who those people would be. A system built for everyone has no capacity limit worth noting. A system built for a select population defines that population by its boundaries. 10,000 concurrent users in a city of 8 million. Who were the 10,000? I want to be careful here, because the temptation at this point is to speculate wildly, to fill the vacuum with assumptions. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is walk you through what the physical evidence actually shows, what the documentation actually says, and where the documentation goes silent. Because the silences, as I've learned across this series, are where the real architecture lives. Let me take you somewhere unexpected. London, 1863. The Metropolitan Railway opens, the world's first underground passenger railway. The official history is well known. Charles Pearson's vision, the cut-and-cover construction method, the sulfurous steam locomotives that made early passengers ill. What's less discussed is the engineering survey that preceded construction, conducted between 1854 and 1858, which documented pre-existing subterranean passages beneath several of the planned stations. The survey team, led by civil engineer John Fowler, noted these passages in technical language that treated them as obstacles to be navigated rather than discoveries to be celebrated. The passages were described as ancient conduits of indeterminate age and purpose, structurally sound, exhibiting masonry techniques inconsistent with known medieval or Roman construction methods. 1854 to 1858. John Fowler's engineering survey for the London Metropolitan Railway documents pre-existing subterranean passages beneath planned station sites. Masonry described as inconsistent with known medieval or Roman construction methods. The passages are treated as construction obstacles, not historical discoveries. No archaeological investigation is recorded. Inconsistent with known methods. That phrase appears again and again in the underground engineering literature of the 19th century. Always in passing, always without follow-up, always surrounded by the kind of professional silence that suggests not ignorance, but instruction. Engineers were documenting what they found. They were not being asked to explain it. And when they did offer explanations, those explanations were invariably practical. Drainage systems, collapsed cellars, medieval sewers of unusual sophistication, anything that fit within the accepted timeline, anything that didn't require asking who built them, or when, or why, or how. I traced similar reports across 7 major cities that underwent significant underground construction between 1850 and 1920. London, New York, Paris, Berlin, Moscow, Buenos Aires, and Istanbul. In every case, engineering surveys documented the discovery of pre-existing underground structures that did not correspond to any known historical construction project. In every case, the discoveries were noted, cataloged, and integrated into the new construction without further investigation. In every case, the structures exhibited a uniformity of design, a consistency of materials and proportions that suggested not independent construction by different civilizations at different times, but a single coordinated system. 7 cities: London, New York, Paris, Berlin, Moscow, Buenos Aires, Istanbul. All underwent major underground construction between 1850 and 1920. All documented pre-existing subterranean structures of unknown origin. All exhibited consistent design principles across continents. None received formal archaeological investigation. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision. And the question it raises is not whether these structures existed. The engineering records confirm they did. The question is why, in every single case, the response was incorporation rather than investigation. Why were these discoveries treated as construction materials rather than historical evidence? Why were they absorbed into new systems rather than studied as remnants of old ones? Now, back to New York, back to the parallel system, because what I found next changed the shape of everything I thought I understood about underground infrastructure. In 2003, a construction crew working on a water tunnel project beneath the east side of Manhattan broke through a wall they weren't expecting to encounter. Behind it, they found a corridor. Not a rough-hewn passage, not a natural cave formation. A finished corridor with smooth walls, a vaulted ceiling approximately 12 feet high, and a floor surface that one worker, in a statement later given to the Department of Buildings, described as like polished stone but not stone, something that felt warm even though everything else down there was cold. The crew reported the discovery to their site foreman, who reported it to the project manager, who apparently made a phone call. Within 4 hours, the site was closed. The workers were reassigned to a different project. The wall was resealed, and in the project documentation filed with the city, the incident appears as a single line item. Encountered legacy infrastructure. Sealed per protocol. No delay to schedule. 2003. East Side Water Tunnel crew breaches unknown corridor. Smooth walls. Vaulted ceiling. 12-foot height. Unidentified warm floor material. Site closed within 4 hours. Workers reassigned. Project documentation records. Encountered legacy infrastructure. Sealed per protocol. No delay to schedule. Legacy infrastructure. The same phrase that appears in Harold Ellison's 1948 survey. The same administrative reflex. Acknowledge, categorize, seal, move on. Never investigate. Never ask why. The vocabulary of passive erasure applied not to history books or museum catalogs, but to physical reality, to corridors that exist beneath your feet right now, corridors that someone built, that someone used, that someone decided you would never know about. I managed to locate one of the workers from the 2003 crew. I won't use his name. He agreed to speak with me on the condition that I wouldn't identify him, and I'll honor that. What he told me was brief and strange. He remembered the corridor. He remembered the wall breaking through. He remembered the floor, particularly the warmth of it. But when I asked him about the hours that followed, about the site closure, about who came and what they said, his account became vague, fragmented. People showed up, he said. Official looking. They talked to us. I signed something. After that, He paused for a long time. I know things happened. I just can't get them in order. It's like trying to remember a dream 3 days later. The edges are gone. I spoke to 3 other workers from the same crew over the following months. Their accounts were remarkably, almost identically, vague. All remembered the discovery clearly. All remembered being reassigned. None could provide coherent detail about the intervention itself, about who arrived, what was said, what was signed. One described the experience as feeling like he'd been talked through something, but couldn't recall the content. Another simply said he'd rather not think about it. The third told me, with a candor that felt more like exhaustion than evasion, "Look, I know what you're trying to get at. I don't remember. I've tried. Whatever happened in those few hours, it's not there anymore." 4 workers from the 2003 tunnel crew interviewed independently. All recall the discovery with clarity. None can provide coherent detail about the intervention that followed. Descriptions of memory loss are consistent across all accounts. Clear before, clear after, blank in between. No worker can identify who arrived at the site or what documents they signed. I want to pause here and address something directly, because I know how this sounds. It sounds like conspiracy. It sounds like men in black suits and memory erasure, and the kind of narrative that belongs in a movie, not in a research documentary. I understand that reaction. I've had it myself. But here's what I keep coming back to. The physical evidence doesn't require belief. The tunnel Harold Ellison documented in 1948 either exists or it doesn't. The MTA contingency memo either references a parallel system or it doesn't. The 2003 construction crew either broke through a wall into an unknown corridor or they didn't. These are not matters of interpretation. They are matters of record. And the records, fragmentary and suppressed as they are, all point in the same direction. Something is down there. Something was built. Something is maintained. And a specific number of people, approximately 10,000, were apparently authorized to use it. The question of who those 10,000 were haunted me. I couldn't find a list, obviously, but I could look for patterns of access. And that's where the 1977 blackout became significant. On July 13, 1977, a series of lightning strikes triggered a cascading failure across the Con Edison power grid, plunging New York City into darkness for 25 hours. The event is remembered primarily for the widespread looting and civil unrest that followed. What is less remembered, because it was reported in only 2 outlets and then never followed up, is a detail from the emergency response logs of the NYPD's Emergency Services Unit. During the blackout, while the city's subway system was completely inoperative, while every train on every line sat motionless in the dark, ESU personnel responding to reports of trapped passengers in a station beneath the financial district encountered a group of approximately 40 individuals emerging from a service door that, according to MTA infrastructure maps, should have led to a maintenance closet. July 13th, 1977. New York City blackout. NYPD Emergency Services Unit encounters approximately 40 individuals emerging from a service door in a financial district subway station. MTA maps show the door leads to a maintenance closet. The individuals are described in the incident report as well-dressed, composed, carrying personal effects as though commuting. No identification collected. No follow-up investigation. The individuals were described in the incident report as well-dressed, composed, carrying personal effects as though commuting, not panicked, not disoriented, not behaving like people who had been trapped in the dark for hours, behaving like people who had been traveling and had arrived, inconveniently, into a situation they hadn't anticipated. The ESU officers asked them where they'd come from. The answers, according to the report, were vague. Downstairs, the lower level. I was just trying to get home. 40 people, well-dressed, emerging from a door that leads nowhere, during a blackout that had shut down every piece of transit infrastructure in the city. The officers noted the incident. It was filed. It was forgotten. But it wasn't the only such incident. In 1994, an MTA maintenance worker named Dolores Vasquez, whose employment I verified through union records, submitted an internal safety complaint describing what she called ghost platforms. Vasquez worked the overnight shift, inspecting tunnel conditions between stations on the Lexington Avenue line. On 3 separate occasions over a 2-month period, she reported hearing what sounded like arriving trains in sections of tunnel where no track existed. On the 3rd occasion, she followed the sound and found, behind a sealed panel in the tunnel wall, a space she described as a platform, clean, lit, like it was being used, but there was no one there and no train. Just a platform with benches and a destination board I couldn't read because the letters didn't look like any alphabet I knew. 1994. MTA. Maintenance worker Dolores Vasquez files safety complaint describing ghost platforms found behind sealed panels in active subway tunnels. One platform described as clean, illuminated, furnished with benches and a destination board using unfamiliar script. Vasquez's complaint is acknowledged in internal records, but classified as infrastructure anomaly, non-safety relevant. She was transferred to surface operations within the month. Vasquez's complaint was acknowledged in internal records, but classified as infrastructure anomaly, non-safety relevant. She was transferred to surface operations within the month. I tried to contact her. She declined to speak with me. Through an intermediary, she sent a message that I will quote in its entirety because its brevity says more than elaboration could. I saw what I saw. They know I saw it. I have a pension. Please don't call again. I need to widen the lens now because New York, as extraordinary as these details are, is not unique. And that's the part that keeps me awake. In 2009, during an expansion of the Moscow Metro's Arbatsko-Pokrovskaya line, a similar breach occurred. Russian construction workers encountered what press reports at the time described as a chamber of significant dimensions, architecturally distinct from any known Moscow underground structure, showing no signs of deterioration consistent with its apparent age. The chamber was photographed. The photographs were shared briefly on a Russian engineering forum before being removed. Cached versions, which I was able to recover, show a vaulted space approximately 30 meters wide, with columns that appear to be made from a single piece of a dark stone material, polished to a reflective finish, bearing geometric patterns that several commentators on the original forum compared to electromagnetic circuit diagrams. 2009. Moscow Metro expansion breaches unknown chamber. Approximately 30 meters wide, columns of single-piece dark stone with geometric patterns compared to electromagnetic circuit diagrams. Photographs surfaced briefly on an engineering forum, then are removed. Russian Transit Authority attributes the find to a previously undocumented section of Stalin-era civil defense infrastructure. No further access permitted. The Russian Transit Authority attributed the find to a previously undocumented section of Stalin-era civil defense infrastructure. This explanation was accepted without scrutiny by every outlet that reported it. But consider, Stalin-era civil defense bunkers are extensively documented. Their locations, dimensions, construction methods, and materials are known. They are built from reinforced concrete. They do not feature polished stone columns with geometric patterns. They do not have vaulted ceilings 30 meters wide. The explanation doesn't explain. It merely provides a label comfortable enough to stop the questioning. The same pattern in Paris. In 2014, during routine maintenance in the catacombs beneath the 14th arrondissement, a team from the Inspection Générale des Carrières, the organization responsible for monitoring Paris's underground quarries, documented a section of tunnel that diverged from all known catacomb mapping. The divergent section descended at a gradient steeper than any quarry passage, ran for approximately 200 meters by their estimate, and terminated at a sealed door made of metal that, according to the team leader's report, did not respond to any tool we carried and appeared to have no seam, hinge, or mechanism visible to the eye. The report was filed internally. No excavation was authorized. The passage was sealed with concrete. 2014, Paris. Inspection Générale des Carrières documents a divergent tunnel beneath the 14th arrondissement. Descends at an unusual gradient for approximately 200 meters. Terminates at a seamless metal door with no visible mechanism. Filed internally. Passage sealed with concrete. No excavation authorized. I keep returning to the number, 10,000. Because if you take the MTA document at face value, if you accept that a parallel transit system existed beneath New York, designed for 10,000 concurrent users, then the engineering implications alone are staggering. 10,000 people require stations, platforms, ventilation, sanitation, power, a system of access points distributed across a geography large enough to be useful. They require a schedule, or, at minimum, a logic of movement. They require maintenance. They require, in other words, an entire civilization of infrastructure, operating in parallel to the one above, invisible, sustained, and staffed. And if New York had one, and the evidence from Moscow, Paris, London, and elsewhere suggests similar structures exist beneath other major cities, then we are not talking about a local anomaly. We are talking about a network, a global network of underground transit, purpose-built for a specific population, maintained across decades, if not centuries, and hidden in plain sight beneath the systems we use every day. The engineering requirements for a parallel transit system serving 10,000 concurrent users imply a complete infrastructure: stations, ventilation, power, sanitation, access points, and maintenance. If similar structures exist beneath multiple global cities, the implication is not a local anomaly, but a coordinated network. The question is not whether it was built. The question is, who built it, who uses it, and who maintains the silence. In 2017, something happened that briefly, almost accidentally, tore a hole in that silence, and the way it was handled tells us more about the architecture of concealment than any document I've found. On March 14th, 2017, a section of tunnel beneath the meatpacking district in Manhattan partially collapsed during an unusually heavy rainstorm. The collapse opened a fissure in the floor of a basement belonging to a commercial building on West 14th Street. Emergency responders arriving at the scene expected to find a broken water main or a compromised sewer line. Instead, they found themselves looking down into a space that a fire department lieutenant, in a statement later obtained through a Freedom of Information request, described as a station, a train station, clean, intact, with tracks. March 14, 2017. Tunnel collapse beneath Manhattan's meatpacking district opens a fissure in a commercial basement floor. FDNY. First responders discover an intact underground station with tracks. The station is described as clean and maintained. Within 90 minutes, federal personnel arrive. The site is transferred to federal jurisdiction. FDNY is instructed to classify the incident as structural collapse, non-transit related. The fire department secured the scene. They called the MTA. The MTA, according to radio communications logged that evening, responded with a curious phrase, "Not ours. Escalate to federal." Within 90 minutes, personnel who were not FDNY, not NYPD, not MTA, arrived at the scene. The building was evacuated. The basement was sealed. The fissure was repaired. And the incident report filed with the city described the event as structural collapse, non-transit related. No mention of a station. No mention of tracks. No mention of anything beneath the basement except earth and broken concrete. But 38 people had already seen it. Residents of the building, employees of the businesses on the ground floor, 2 delivery drivers, a building superintendent, an off-duty paramedic who happened to be in the building when the floor opened. 38 civilians who, for approximately 90 minutes before the site was transferred to federal jurisdiction, looked down into a space that is not supposed to exist. And within 3 weeks, every single one of them had been contacted, visited at home or at work, asked to sign documents they later described, in the few cases where I was able to obtain statements, as official-looking, very long, with a lot of legal language about national security and infrastructure sensitivity. 38 civilians witnessed the exposed station before the site was sealed. Within 3 weeks, all were contacted by unidentified officials and asked to sign documents described as involving national security and infrastructure sensitivity. Of the 11 I was able to reach, none could recall the specific content of the documents. 7 described varying degrees of memory difficulty regarding the hours following the collapse. 4 declined to discuss the incident at all. Of the 38, I was able to reach 11. Their responses formed a pattern I recognized immediately from the 2003 tunnel crew interviews. Clear memory of the event itself. Clear memory of seeing the station. Clear memory of the tracks, the lighting, the sense of scale. And then, when the conversation moved to the aftermath, to the officials who arrived, to the documents they signed, to the conversations they had in the days following, the same fog, the same fragmentation, the same sense of trying to recall something that should be accessible, but isn't. "I remember signing something," one woman told me. "I remember a man in a dark suit explaining something to me very calmly, but I can't tell you what he said. It's not that I'm choosing not to tell you, I physically cannot recall the words." 7 of the 11 described similar experiences. 4 refused to discuss the incident at all. 1, a retired attorney, said only this: "Whatever is down there, it's been down there a long time, and the people who know about it have had a long time to figure out how to keep it quiet. You're not going to get anywhere with this. Not because you're wrong, because the system works. The system works." That phrase has stayed with me, not as a threat, but as a description, a mechanical description, because that's what this is ultimately. Not a conspiracy in the dramatic sense, not shadowy figures in a room deciding the fate of the world. A system, an administrative system, the same kind of bureaucratic architecture that manages permits and pensions and parking violations, applied to the management of a secret, applied with such thoroughness, such institutional patience, such absolute administrative discipline, that the secret has persisted not for years, but apparently for generations, maintained not by silence alone, but by an infrastructure of silence as carefully engineered as the tunnels themselves. And this is where the Tartaria thread becomes impossible to separate from the transit question. Because across this series, we've documented the same pattern in a different register. Buildings that appear without construction records, civic infrastructure that predates the cities it serves, architectural proportions that don't match the populations that supposedly built them, and always, the same administrative response. Acknowledge, categorize, move on. Never investigate. Never ask who was here before. What if the parallel system beneath our cities is not modern? What if it wasn't built in the 20th century by any government we'd recognize? What if, like the oversized doorways and the buried first floors, and the buildings that appear fully formed in the historical record, the tunnels were already there? What if the 10,000 people referenced in the MTA document weren't the original users? What if they were inheritors? A select population granted access to infrastructure they did not build and do not fully understand, moving through the bones of a previous civilization while the rest of us walk above, unaware. The question that cannot be answered within the standard historical framework. If the parallel transit system is modern, where are the construction records? Where is the workforce? Where are the supply chains, the material orders, the engineering contracts? And if it is not modern, if it predates the cities above it, then the entire relationship between the surface world and what lies beneath requires a fundamental reassessment that no institution appears willing to undertake. I don't have that answer. I want to be honest about that. What I have is a weight of evidence, fragmentary, suppressed, scattered across decades and continents, all pointing toward the same conclusion. Beneath the cities we think we know, there are cities we don't. Transit systems we were never told about. Infrastructure maintained by someone, for someone. In silence so complete that when the silence is accidentally broken, when a tunnel collapses or a wall gives way, or a maintenance worker wanders into a platform that shouldn't exist, the response is not investigation, but repair. Not curiosity, but concealment. Not answers, but the restoration of the question's impossibility. The buildings above remember, even when we don't. The doors that are too tall. The staircases that require strides beyond normal human proportion. The windows that begin below street level, hinting at buried floors, buried worlds, buried truths. And now, the passages below. The corridors lined with materials we can't identify. The platforms lit by systems we haven't cataloged. The stations that appear on no map. Served by transit that follows no published schedule. Connecting points in a geography we have never been allowed to chart. 38 people looked down through a broken floor and saw something that was not supposed to be visible. Within weeks, the floor was repaired. The documents were signed, and the memory, the actual neurological capacity to recall what happened next, appears to have been administered away with the same quiet efficiency as everything else in this story. Not destroyed, not threatened, administered, processed, filed under a category that does not officially exist, by an office that has no name, through a protocol that leaves no trace except the absence it creates in the minds of those it touches. The silence is not the absence of evidence. It is itself a structure, as carefully engineered as the tunnels it conceals. Beneath the cities we know, there appear to be cities we don't. And the distance between the two is not measured in meters of earth and stone, but in the questions we have been systematically taught not to ask. I keep thinking about Dolores Vasquez, about the platform she found, clean, lit, furnished, with a destination board she couldn't read because the script was unfamiliar. I keep thinking about the letters she described, an alphabet that wasn't English, wasn't Russian, wasn't any writing system she recognized. A destination board implies destinations. It implies a network. It implies that somewhere, in a language we have apparently forgotten or been made to forget, The places beneath us have names. The roots have logic. The system has a grammar. And 10,000 people, approximately, at any given time, know what those names are. Know the grammar. Know the roots. Move through the passages below, while the rest of us stand on platforms above, waiting for trains we can see, traveling to destinations we can read, never once suspecting that beneath our feet, separated by nothing more than a sealed panel, or a maintenance door, or a floor that hasn't yet collapsed, there is another transit system entirely, older, quieter, stranger, and maintained with an institutional discipline that makes the MTA look like a lemonade stand, by someone, for purposes we have not been invited to understand. The floor was repaired. The wall was resealed. The panel was closed. The documents were signed. The memories were, by whatever mechanism, softened into fog. And the parallel system continues, as it has apparently continued for longer than any of us have been alive, operating beneath the ordinary world with the steady, indifferent precision of something that was never designed to be discovered and has no intention of being understood. Once you see the pattern, you cannot unfocus your eyes from it. The next time you stand on a subway platform, listen. Not to the train arriving on the tracks you can see. Listen deeper. Listen for the vibration that doesn't match the schedule. The hum that comes from below the below. The faint, rhythmic pulse of something moving through stone and silence, carrying passengers to destinations that have no names you would recognize, along routes that appear on no map you will ever be shown. It's there. The evidence says it's there. The documents say it's there. The witnesses, the ones who can still remember, say it's there. And the silence, the immaculate, impenetrable, institutional silence that surrounds it. That silence says it louder than anything else. Something is moving beneath us, and we were never meant to hear it. If this series is worth your time, and I hope it is, consider subscribing or becoming a member. The next episode goes somewhere I've been avoiding for months. I think I'm ready now. See you there.